What's going on, everybody? This is Fry. So today we are doing the fun PvZ Heroes tier list. Now, instead of rating the cards based on how good they are competitively, we're basically going to be completely ignoring that. We're only going to be rating the cards and putting them on the tier list based on how fun they are to play. So Barry Bama put together, in his opinion, what all the RNG effects in the game are. So we're only going to be doing the cards that have some kind of random effect. Now, sometimes the random effect is super lame, and sometimes, thank you so much, Pizza Master, for subscribing. It's 14 months. Sometimes the random effect is going to be super fun, and obviously that will give it a much higher score. So obviously, I might have missed some like real subtle ones, like things that have something random I didn't realize. But anyway, hopefully this will basically cover most of them in the game. One thing before I start is that I just noticed, I'll even show you kind of the cards coming up. We're going through a lot, so I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. The plants are from here to here, and then the zombies are from Cheese Cutter down to Planewalker. So there seems to be like twice as many almost zombies that have luck effects than plants, so maybe zombies are more fun, who knows? But anyway, let's just get right into it. And we are going to be starting off with Photosynthesizer. So this is a competitive card in the fact that it, is really good with like your dinosaurs because it gives them extra health. Conjures a random Galacta Guardians card. Sometimes that can make a difference. That card is conjured, so with Captain Cucumber, obviously it'll cost less. I would say the fun value of this card, it's like okay, but really nothing special. Every once in a while you'll get something amazing as that Galactic Guardians cards. I'm just going to give this a pretty average C. Next, we are going to move on to Primal freaking Walnut. So this one's Conjure gives you something that costs 4 or more. So it's always going to give you like an impactful late game card. Again, also very good with Dinosaurs, particularly with Triceratops. I think that this is probably a little more fun because of its very specific Conjure, that it's always giving you something late, and every once in a while will give you like a really good finisher, so we'll give that a B. Again, also not one of the most fun cards in the game. Alright, moving on to Starch Lord. I guess Starch Lord's kind of fun. It conjures you random roots, and the difference between getting like a Soul Patch and getting a freaking Water Chestnut is obviously great. Usually cards that have a very big disparity in terms of like the types of cards they can conjure, that some of them are amazing, some of them are a lot worse, and some of the cards will have all kinds of random effects. It gives it a lot of extra points. This also buffs the cards it conjures. No, I'm not putting this in S. This is not an S tier fun card. If you're thinking about a fun deck, you're not going to be thinking Starch Lord. I'm putting this in B. Sorry, guys. Hardly even fun. Next, we're going to do Cosmic Nut. By the way, I'm just going in order of the classes. We're starting with Guardian, Kabloom. We're going to go through the plants and then go through all the zombies, sort of in the order they find in the collection, in case you're searching for something when you're watching this video. Cosmic Nut. This actually has some crazy value the lower the cost of the card it conjures. Like Walnut is the best thing. It's a 1 cost 3/6, which is ridiculous. Most of the cards this conjures are lame. It's usually just conjuring like Smacadamia. Every once in a while this will make a Juggernaut, which is like a 3/2 instead of a 2/2. Pretty lame. Come on, let's get to the good ones. Alright. High Voltage Current is at least getting somewhere. Conjures random berry. That berry always has synergy with this. There's, again, a really big difference between getting that perfect Berry Blast or, like, even Sour Grapes or Sergeant Strongberry that you need and getting something useless like Shelf Shroom. So, because it matters a lot and there's a lot of tension revolving around this card, maybe we'll give it B. I think overall, also, if you can just buff this up a lot, it's fun in general. It has nothing to do with its effect. Alright, here's the real one. Okay, Reincarnation. This is really one of the more fun cards in the game. The fact it turns into something random every single turn, and like if this lands, there's a lot of things happening with Reincarnation. The first thing, and almost most important, is the fact that if whatever turn it is for you, however much sun you have, if it turns into a card that costs that, this will usually be the best effect from this card because you're getting something on curve. It's +1/+1, so it's never going to be bad in terms of tempo. I really like including Reincarnation in all of our Kabloom RNGs decks. It's really fun. I don't think I'm going to quite give this S tier because it's not like, you'll see the types of cards I put in S tier and even though you might be surprised you think this is supposed to be S, but I'm going to be putting this in A. We're going to be reserving S tier for the most absolute fun cards in the game. There are a lot of fun cards, so I'm going to be really reserving that for S tier. Okay, now we're up to Seedling. Seedling is so... I feel like part of the lack of fun with seedling is that it's so frustrating because it's just always turning into another seedling for me. This happened on the stream several times recently. It turns into you know, just freaking puff shrooms and weenie beanies and all kinds of garbage. But on the other hand, it is one of the more fun cards in the game. Every once in a while, this just turns into like a Pop and Poppies, a 3-headed Chomper, a Brainana, which I think I've seen one time. It's kind of ridiculous when you play this. I mean, it's so frustrating, but maybe the frustration actually adds to the fun. I'm going to have to put this pretty high. Fine, I'll put it in S tier. S is for seedling. Screw it. All right, next card that has a random effect is Wildberry. This is not a fun card to play. In fact, it's just only frustrating and not fun. There's usually very few exciting moments of like Wildberry going into the right lane. Usually it just like lands into a freaking, you know, total eclipse and just dies immediately. Very unfun card. I'm putting this in Chunk of Coal. I don't think it's fun at all, actually. I never think of this as being a fun card. All right. What else do we got? Cosmic Mushroom. This is kind of cool because, again, if it makes like a Puff Shroom, you get a... if it turns a Puff Shroom, you get a 0-cost 3/1. I mean, there's some things that you can get from this that are just absolutely ridiculous. It's usually useless, though. It's not really fun. I'll put in D. Here's one that you wouldn't normally think of when you're thinking RNG cards, but Mushroom Grotto is actually an RNG because it depends which lane the mushroom goes into. I would say the most fun part of this is the fact that you can make 1,000,000 Pine Clones the next turn if you have a couple Puff Shrooms and a Pine Clone. Otherwise, does which lane it end up in? Is this card intrinsically very fun? Not really. I'll put in D. All right, what else we got? Punish Room. This really makes a very, very big difference in terms of what it hits. Every once in a while, we'll have these crazy Punish Rooms that are just hitting the same minion again and again, and it's just ridiculous. Or it's going face again and again when the opponent doesn't have a lot of health. So I should probably put this a little bit higher. It's obviously not one of the most fun cards in the game. I think I'll put it in B because it's actually a pretty... Is this a pretty fun card to play? Not really. I'll put it in C. I changed my mind. What else we got? Oh, here we go. Okay, guys, this is a really very strong contender for the absolutely most fun card in the game. I mean, I would say it probably is the most fun plant. The fact this turns everything into a random plant that costs 1 more. So obviously really good with like Raptors and Pinecone and stuff like that. But you can even use this with Kernel Corns and start turning them to Great Zucchinis and turning that into Cornucopia, turning your 7-cost cards into 8-cost cards. So this, you know, there's always all kinds of just crazy stuff that happens every single time we play Molekale deck. Nice putting this into a Pair of Paradise too, because then you get 2 and it transforms the first one to a 4-cost card. There's a big difference too. Like if you have a bunch of Pine Clones on the field and one of them transforms into a Jumping Bean when your opponent played a big card on the field, like that makes such a huge difference. Every once in a while you'll just get like perfect combos, and then every once in a while you get freaking stupid Potted Powerhouse. But anyway, I can't find any place on this tier list easily other than S tier for you. Next, we're moving on to, again, one of the most fun cards in the entire game. I mean, Transfiguration. This can turn a plant into anything. That's the point. And it's literally anything as great as Great Zucchini or Cornucopia or down to just freaking Small Nut. I think I'm going to put this in S tier too because these two plants are probably... You can really make a lot of really fun decks with Transfiguration. This card also has amazing stats, so it kind of like carries itself by being like, you don't want to be a fun deck. You want it to at least be competitive a little bit too. All right, what are we going to do with Petalmorphosis? This card costs way too much. I probably talked about this back in the Kabloom tier list and competitively. I feel like this should just cost 2 because if this would, or this should upgrade the plant, like always upgrade it to something that costs something random more. It's just too expensive. It's not fun because it's so impractical. I mean, it's sort of fun. I'm not gonna... I mean, I'll give it a nice tier, but I feel like it's just too... It's too... I don't know. I'll put in B. It's kind of impractical. Speaking of impractical, also Atomic Pomegranate. See, this would be much more fun if Seedling had more health. Or had like team up, but the fact that it needs 2 empty lanes. It's not even always making 2 seedlings when it dies, And then you also need, like, the one to the right usually dies because there's usually like a minion there. It's unlikely for both of them to ever survive. Every once in a while it happens. Thank you, Jack-O-Lantern. I mean, this is a pretty fun card when you can pull it off. It's just so hard. It's so unreliable. It is pretty fun. Okay, I'll put you in B. We're going to need more room on this tier list by the time we're done. This tier list is actually taking up way too much space. I'm going to shrink it soon once it fills up. All right, next we have Ragnarosberry. I feel like this is, it's kind of fun. It's random effect. It's hitting a random zombie. It makes a really big difference sometimes what it hits. I feel like there's always like only just 2 or 3 options. So it's sort of similar in that way to like Punish Room. I guess it's really the same as Punish Room. I'll put it in C. Not one of the most fun cards in the game. All right, moving right along to Mega Grow. Banana Peel. See, Banana Peel, there's only like 5 bananas in the game. What do you got? You have Half Banana, Launcher, Split, Rex, and Brainana. So there's like, and another Banana Peel, I guess, and Banana Bomb would be 7 now. But anyway, there's just not enough cards that can conjure. Does it really make a difference if you get a Banana Split or a Banana Source Rex? Like, who cares? Like, I guess getting a Brainana is good, but that you play it on turn 6. I don't know about you. It's kind of lame. It doesn't conjure enough different types of cards for it to really be fun. All right. We need disparity. Next, we're up to Typical Beanstalk. Where are you? Where are you? I guess I didn't count. This is kind of weird. I probably should have had Moonbeam in here because it shuffles them into your deck, so technically it's a random effect. This wouldn't have been very high on the list anyway. I don't think So Magic Beans made it either, even though they don't have immediate. I guess it's pretty random. All right, Typical Beanstalk conjures a random Leafy when it's placed next to a Leafy. It's so impractical. It's not a fun card. Leafy cards are boring anyway. Next, we are up to this piece of trash garbage. Thank you so much, Xeno, for subscribing. That was a gift from Jack-O-Lantern, actually, so thank you so much to Jack. O-Lantern. Multiple subs. Getting an extra P that has Double Strike. Double Strike is not a good ability for most cards. Usually you're just getting like a P shooter or like I don't even know what you're getting. Freaking a Click P that has Double Strike. Like, congratulations. This is not good. This is a chunk of coal. I hate this card. No. All right. Speaking of S tier, though, Captain Cucumber has got to be S tier. I mean, this is seriously one of the most fun cards in the game. Not only in terms of what it does in itself, that it's always conjuring you legendaries, especially for players that don't have a lot of legendaries. I mean, this is how you get them on the plan side. These combine with each other, so then you're ending up with like Kernel Corns that cost 6 and stuff like that. You're playing cards earlier. Plus, you can really build an entire deck around this because it makes all of your conjure cards, all the cards that conjure stuff, become more fun. So this is like fun central and actually uplifts the fun of the rest of the deck. So I definitely got to put Captain Cucumber in S tier for fun value. And I definitely cannot say that about this piece of unfun garbage. Here's Plucky Clover. It kind of cool because the event cards are very different, but I feel like for a 5-cost card, unreliably conjuring something into your hands. I'll tell you a key when it comes to conjuring is that you either have to be inexpensive in order to be fun when you're a conjure card, or you need to just put the card right onto the field. Like, we're going to get a bunch of cards later that will throw things onto the field. It's way more fun because you're not necessarily going to be able to play this event card. That's the problem. I've really never had that much fun playing Plucky Clover, so I'm just putting it in D. It's kind of lame. Too expensive. And, okay, this is actually a much more fun card because it's actually really competitive. It does a lot on the field. It's untrickable. It conjures you a root, which immediately gives it 1/1. This is growing all the time. I feel like the random effect of like the conjuring a root is not even the most fun part of this card. I will give it a little extra points, and thank you so much, GTCM. It's 19 months. Really appreciate it. I'll definitely give this a little extra points for, in general, just being this big hunk of clay on the field that's just really, really hard to take out. Where are we going to put you? I'll put it in B. Nice, solid. Nice, solid, decently fun card. Okay, here's Lily Pad. Being able to put things in the water that don't belong there is not fun at all. I mean, I've tried it. It's cool in theory, but it just does not work in PvZ Heroes. The fact that it conjures you random Leafy cards are super boring. I'll give it more than typical Beanstalk because of the water effect, but I'm not going to really be giving it. I'll give it a C. All right, here's Cosmic Bean is probably it's definitely one of the more useful Conjure cards because, you know, it works in Bean decks, but also which Bean you get is cool. It's really nice having, like, if you have a full field. Thank you, Sir Sparkleton. Damn, we're getting a lot of subs today.
Cactus Jack sent me.
15 months. Cactus Jack, what? Is that a JoJo reference? Listen, guys. I watched my first episode of JoJo last night, by the way. I'm such a weep now. Cosmic Bean, the fact it gives you, like, the cards, you're always going to be able to play them since it's going to have team up. So if you get, like, a Jumping Bean, you can play it even onto a full field. It actually just makes it a little more fun. Thank you so much, Jack-O-Lantern, for gifting another sub to NG Ghost. Welcome to the family. I'll put this on the upper half of, like, the Conjures. It's not bad. All right, here's Mayflower. Mayflower can conjure a lot of really cool cards like Cornucopia, which is usually useless. The Squashes are okay. And thank you, Kostro. Whoa, guys. Whoa, guys. Slow it down. 22 months. Holy moly with that. Damn. You guys are subbing like crazy today. So this is, I guess it's fun. I'm probably like devaluing it in terms of fun because it's not very competitive. It sits in the water and just conjures things the entire game. I guess it has to be in B or C. I'm going to go with my gut and put this in C. Fine, I'll put it in B. Mayflower, you deserve it. All right, here's Clap. Now, I call this Clap because every single time he activates the ability, he goes and turns the guy into a mushroom. So it's destroying a random zombie. I'm turning him into a mushroom. So this is actually a really fun card, like a really, really fun card. The problem is it's really hard to pull off. So I'm going to take off some value from the fact it's hard to pull off. I guess this is just going to be up in B. I don't think I can quite put this in A because it's not like when you run this in a deck that this is a really fun deck right now as opposed to Reincarnation. I'll put this in B. It's fun when you pull it off, but it's so hard to pull off, so therefore it's less fun. I guess that makes sense. So I'm going to shrink the tier list so you guys can kind of like keep track of what's coming up next. I'm going to have to shrink this another time because this I think is the largest tier list in terms of just which. Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go. In terms of which cards, don't worry, that'll flatten out after a while. All right. We're looking pretty good. Next, Burb of Paradise. This is actually a really fun card. Again, it's a little hard to pull off, but you can ram to it with Rose. The conjuring random superpowers, this gives you so much. Like, when you're conjuring cards in your hand, they all cost 1, and they're all overpowered. It just swings the game so much. Really, any superpower you get, but particularly if you get that one, that meteor that you really needed at that time to shine. Even that, like, random, you know, Ready to Rumble from Grass Knuckle, stuff like that. This is a really, really fun card. I'm not going to be able to put this in quite an S, but I think this is actually A tier. When you get this on the field, it's always giving you value, and, you know, they cost 0 if you have a Captain Cucumber, which is cool. I think ramping to this is the main way. You actually can get pretty decent.
I remember our destiny was written in the starch.
Thank you, Tucker, for 1 year of subbing. That's 12 months. Holy moly with that. All right, next is Great Zucchini, which technically has an RNG ability because the 1/1 zombies, you know, it can turn into a pet or into like the sports one or into so this technically is an RNG card. It happens to be it's more fun just in terms of like its troll value than obviously the RNG value. It really doesn't matter if the guy gets a skunk punk or a backup dancer. So I'm going to give this some fun points. I guess I'll put it in C since it's not really much about the random effect, but it actually is a pretty fun card, so why the hell not? All right, here's Haunted Pumpkin. Haunted Pumpkin is, again, it's one of the best cards in the game. It's definitely S tier in terms of competitiveness. In terms of how fun it is to play, I'm going to be putting this really, really low on the list. Like, there is a big difference in terms of what it conjures for your opponents. If they're getting a Vampire or freaking Primal Yeti, it's usually not going to be nearly as good as if they conjure an Alien Ooze, or every once in a while this will give your opponent a Monster Mash or something nuts. I think we've even have a dedicated video on, like a really old one on Fry 'em Up. It's when Haunted Pumpkin goes wrong, and I forget exactly what happened. I think it conjured a monster mash that just completely messed up every single trade on the whole field. So I'll put this. Usually, the card that it conjures for your opponent is not really good anyway. It's usually just trash monster cards. That's why I'm putting this pretty low. I'll put this in D. I'm just explaining why I'm not putting it in F, because there's really nothing fun about running this in your deck, even though it's extremely competitive. Next, Cosmic Flower will conjure you a random flower and it gets strike through. Like, there's so many flowers have strike through anyway, and like your Briar Rose gets strike through, like your Morning Glory. I guess it's okay. There's nothing really fun about this card at all. I'm putting it in D. Every once in a while I'll have a good moment. All right, we're up to this one. This is a decently fun card in itself. It's also conjuring a random trick. I find that trick, it really makes a big difference sometimes what you're running. I usually am playing this late in games when you're putting a lot of different minions on the field, which is sort of when Sunstrike is available. I think you got the fish. Got the fish just sub with a pace up tier 1. Holy moly with that. Thank you guys. So, like, that trick very often matters a lot, which one you get. Because if this is giving you some Espresso Fiesta, some crazy finisher, that will make a difference. Usually, again, don't have a lot of cards in your hand by the time you're even playing the Sunstrike. Every once in a while, I'll just give you so Magic Beans, and it's just like, wah, wah. So I'll put this on a higher tier in terms of the conjures in this game. So we'll put it up in B. And thank you so much, Gaming Hero 620. That's another one. Welcome to the Frimely with the free Prime sub. Come on, guys. What is going on today? We just had like 20 subs in the last 10 minutes. Good job, guys. Thank you so much for your support. All right, next, Cornucopia. This is a really, really fun card. I don't like it competitively, but this is one of the more fun cards in the game. I can't really give this S tier, but I gotta put Cornucopia at least an A. This can make any plant, and every once in a while, it makes a bunch of weenie beanies and trash, and every once in a while, it just makes Gracie Keeney's 3-headed chompers, and it's just like, what am I exactly supposed to do about that? So we'll put Cornucopia in A. I'm not putting it in S because most Cornucopia decks, again, you don't get a ton of opportunities to play it. Like most games in a Cornucopia deck, you don't end up playing Cornucopia since it's so expensive. That's the reason I'm putting in A. If this obviously cost less and had a similar effect, that would be easy S tier. Maybe that's the answer to Cornucopia. I think it should at most cost 9, but anyway. Maybe you can make like an 8-cost version. All right, that was all the plants. Now we're getting to the zombies. Let's go. Cheese Cutter. So this is actually a really fun card to play. You can run this with Dr. Spacetime and Conjure, but that's usually not what you're doing anyway. You're just throwing this at your opponent. What this conjures also makes a huge difference, because if this makes a King of the Grill, so great, you got 5-cost King of the Grill in your hand, it's not a big deal. But if this will give you 1-cost Lurch for lunch, it'll give you 1-cost Sugary Treat, 0-cost Hearty Treat, 2-cost Vitamin Z. There are so many things that this can conjure that it just rips the game wide open and just gives you these insane combos or insane tempo bursts. So this is a really, really fun card. I can't quite put this in S, but I'm going to put this in A because, again, once this Cheese Cutter hits face, it's really, really hard for your opponent to do anything. And it really makes a huge difference in terms of the differences of the conjure. Here's Fraidy Cat. Now, this isn't a bad card. The main thing is that it grows whenever your opponent plays a trick. It kind of has this weird one since it's a Fraidy Cat, so it moves to a random lane. I don't find that which lane it moves to makes a difference very often. Every once in a while it does. We have even had some highlights in the highlight comp where this will like go into just like go to the right and end up in area 22 and then like win the game because the opponent, played button shrooms or something like that. So every once in a while this ability is fun. It usually makes absolutely no difference, though, so I can't put this too high on the list. I think I'm just going to put this in C. Again, it has some cool moments, but nothing too special in terms of fun. Energy Drink Zombie is more significant in terms of its moving because it automatically moves every turn. You can't, play around it. So you're chasing this around the field. I feel like the whole... your opponent's trying to, play the statistics of where this is going to move a lot more than, let's say, Fraidy Cat. And then it just will either go right into where they happen to guess or completely miss for several turns. And by that time, it gets so big. So it's huge ramifications in terms of the RNG, much more significant. I'll put this higher. I think I'm going to put this up in B. It's a pretty fun card, just nothing, crazy. Right. Next, we're gonna do botanist. I guess botanist technically. It will make a 1/1 of the swords. Okay, we did have one highlight in one of the highlight comps. I don't remember which number. It was the opponent. I think I had a. Thank you so much, Tucker. $20.
You have provided me over the past
Thank
year.
you so much.
Like you deserved something back.
Aw.
Starch Lord up.
Thank you, no thank you, no, I'm joking. Thank you so much, Tucker. Holy moly with that. What generosity. Let's get some hype in the chat for Tucker. That's what I'm talking about. One time I had an Admiral Navy Bean on the field. Opponent plays Biodome Botanist. Conjures me a Weenie Beanie for the win. So we have had like a couple of crazy moments. If they have a Briar Rose on the field too and it makes like the Bellflower, that's always a little bit tense. So I can't really put this in chunk of cold tier since we have had fun moments. I'll put it in D though, because usually it's a really not fun card to play. I mean, you can use this to like proc your Garg throwing Gargs. It's still in D. Next is Thanos Yeti. Thanos Yeti's not a very fun card to play. Most of the pets are around this like 1 or 2, maybe 3 costs. It's like every once in a while this will make a Kangaroo, but that's really boring. It'll make Primal Yeti. It's usually useless. I don't find it makes that big of a difference what it makes. Like, does it matter if it makes a ducky or a dog? It's not really going to affect the game that much. Every once in a while it matters. Freaking Thanos Yeti. I'm going to put this in the lower tier of the conjures in tier C. Again, it conjures cards, but it doesn't really make a big difference. Maybe this should be going down here because it's expensive. I think I'm putting in D. All right. Next is going to be Piano. B flat. Randomly destroy a zombie. Hardly ever use this thing. It's so unreliable. I mean, every once in a while you will have a really, really great moment from B flat where they have like 6 minions on the field and it gets exactly the right one. I don't know if we have any highlights in the highlight comp from that because I feel like those moments were like way before I started making the highlight comps, even like back in 2017. So I don't have a lot of those on YouTube, but we have had some. I guess I'll put this in C. All right. Next is King of the Grill. Now, this actually will get some good points for conjuring because, again, what it conjures in the gourmet tribe makes a huge difference. The lower the cost of the card it conjures, obviously, the better. Getting another King of the Grill, you're not going to get a chance to play it. If this is giving you bonus attacks and even lunch boxes and hearty treats and sugary treats, those are going to win you the game. So I'll put this on the higher end in terms of the conjures. We'll put it in B. Here's Garg throwing Garg. This is a really, really, really fun card. You can either do it with the Morticia and like teleport this in front of what your opponent plays. You can do this with any beastie hero like Boogaloo and put it into hunting grounds. You can even just stick it on the field and then use your Boogaloo's like splash cards like fireworks to activate this. I mean, this thing makes Zombots. This thing makes how many highlights have we had with Garg throwing Garg? Some of the best highlights actually in the entire, like all the highlight comps have actually come from Garg throwing Garg, including one, I'm pretty sure there was one this past week, where it made a Zombot and just, just like, that was one of the only things that would save him. Even once in a while, getting a Rodeo Garg or a Nurse or something like that. I mean, this is really, really high up. Does this have to go in S? I didn't consider this to be one of the S tier cards, but I think I'm going to, does this go in S in terms of fun? In terms of just fun? Forget about competitive value, Fry. I think I'm going to put this in S. I think I'm going to do it. It deserves to be. It really is like the minion version of Bad Moon Rising. Spoiler, Bad Moon Rising is going to be an S tier. Let's go for it. I think it deserves to be up there. It's definitely more fun than Cornucopia and probably more fun than Reincarnation. Yeah. All right, it's an S. Would have put that in high A either way. All right, next. Ooh, here's the Brainy Club. This actually has some of the most fun cards in the game. Interdimensional Zombie is a really, really fun card. Because again, if this turns into Moonwalker when it's on Heights, you got a 4/4. If this turns into Blob, you have a 1/5. I mean, the difference makes such a huge difference. This can turn into this random Abracadaver. This can turn into a Brain Vendor and give you 3 extra brains and be able to play environments and leaps that turn. I mean, this thing it's part of the Conjure Leap deck, of course. Just the fact that it turns into a 3-cost card that you can leap then to a 4-cost card, but this really works in any science deck. It's such a jack of all trades. I mean, you can run this in so many decks. I don't think I'm going to put quite an S, but this really deserves a spot in A. It's quite fun. Cosmic Scientist, on the other hand, look, will be on the higher end of Conjures, because if this again makes a, you know, if this makes like a clutch gadget scientist, I feel like the guy being Bullseye, like even Dr. Spacetime, there's a bunch of really weird, the fact it's giving Bullseye to whatever card that really kind of change it around. I'm gonna put this up in B with like the good Conjure cards, because it's one of the more fun ones. You can also run this in Conjure Leap, so it gets points for that. Next is not Quasar. That's going in the crazy class. Where are the crazy cards? Crazy cards are here. All right, next is going to be Leap. Oh my gosh. Okay, this is easy S tier. Come on, guys. Conjure Leap is the most fun strat in the entire game. The randomness, especially when you start getting to the more expensive cards, because then, you end up leaping things into Plankwalkers and into Zombots and into Tricksters, and it's just, this is easily one of the most fun cards in the game. I would even suggest people, if you're going for just the most fun experience, you can craft the Conjure Leap deck. I would start with Dr. Spacetime, probably, who's also going to be an S tier, spoiler. Same thing really goes for Transformation Station. It's the exact same thing as Leap, but it's the environment version. This also actually transformed things multiple times, so if anything, this is even more fun than Leap. But yes, absolutely, Leap tier. These are definitely some of the most fun cards in the entire game. All right, next is Trick or Treater. Trick or Treater, it can only conjure two things. So the happens to be the cards that it conjures are very playable. Like Sugary Treat and Hearty Treat are both very decent, useful cards. Every once in a while, again, if you're running this with Dr. Spacetime, they'll cost less. I get it's more of a fun card. I don't know. I'm trying to think, should this be on like the higher end of the conjures or the lower end, since it only makes two things? I have very good associations with this, so I think I'm going to put this in B. I think it's because of how useful the cards are and how it really matters a lot if you get the Hearty Treat or the Sugary Treat. It really does matter because they're different costs and they do completely different things. I think I'll put that in B. I could have put it in C there for the same price. All right, next is Duck Stash. Duck Stash. Are we all the way? Yeah, we're good. So, we're going to put you. It's a very unuseful card in the game just because it's giving you random mustaches. Like, who cares? Most of the mustaches are useless. Every once in a while, it'll give you, like, a really clutch, I don't know, kitchen sink zombie. It's pretty fun in the Professor Mustache deck. Is this high-end Conjure or low-end? I don't know. It's pretty fun. It's either in B or C. Is it more comparable to, like, Starch Lord or more comparable to Primal Walnut? It's more comparable to Starch Lord and these conjuries. All right, I'll put in B. Next is Thinking Cap. Thinking Cap is honestly one of my favorite cards to play. It's very hard to pull off. You can almost only do this with Super Brains or Huge Giganticus because it makes the superpowers cost less. You can also do it with Rust Bolt if you have Teacher, because then you can play this for 3 and then play the superpowers immediately. The problem with that is that Teacher dies real easily since it only has 1 health, but it definitely works. This is really one of the more fun cards in the game in terms of conjuring superpowers and stuff. I think it definitely deserves to be up with like Bird of Paradise. It's kind of a similar card. So I'll put it in A. Next, we got Cosmic Mad Chemist. It gives you a random trick. It is a pretty fun card. I'm always very critical on this in terms of like... in terms of how competitive it is, which it's not because it's too unreliable, but every once in a while this will give you the really, really good one. I think I'm not going to be putting this up in A because it's not that fun, but I'll put it definitely in the higher end of like the conjuring cards, so we'll put it up in B. Triplication, on the other hand, look, it's a fun idea when you run it. I don't find that even when the fun decks, like I'll do Huge Giganticus, Dr. Spacetime, and Triplication, so then your Imp and your Garg and your Zombie cost less. Look, this really can conjure basically any minion in the game, because what doesn't fall under one of those categories? Like any, zombie minion. But on the other hand, those cards, they're so unplayable. It's usually giving you crap. Like if 1 out of the 3 cards are actually going to be even useful to play that game, then you're lucky, and it's usually not going to be a really good idea either. This really is not. I know some people think this is really, really fun, but it's just the overall amount of times you get to even use the cards that it conjures you is very, very low percent. So that's why I'm going to be reducing that down to C tier. It's the lower end of the conjures for sure. All right, let's see what else we're doing over here. I'm going to try to keep on. This tier list is humongous. I mean, this is the most things ever on a tier list, I think. So let's see what we can do here. Keep just shrinking this as the night goes on. All right, we're looking pretty good. We have some room to grow. If you know what I'm saying. All right, next one is going to be Portal Technician is a pretty fun card. I mean, this is a complete meme. It's really unreliable, but whenever we run this, it's usually a lot of fun, a lot of tension. And again, it doesn't conjure the card into your hand. It sticks it right onto the field when it dies. So I used to even run this in like Professor Paid Too Much to Win as a control card. That was weird. But anyway. This is pretty. I'm not gonna put this in A, but it definitely deserves to be at least in B. It's a decently fun card whenever we run it. Nice, solid B. All right, here's Mechasaur. Mechasaur is a really, really fun card. It's very hard to pull off, but the fact that this is just making minions, and then you start drawing a lot of cards, and it's just throwing things around the field. Plus, the types of cards that it makes are really impactful. This tribe, the History Tribe, I mean, it can make as anything useless as a Valkyrie on the field, which obviously is a 0/6. It can start making Undying Pharaoh. It always makes Brontosaurus in the water lane. Every once in a while, it'll make that on the ground too, I think. So it'll make a Gladiator that clutch saves you. I mean, make an Orchestra Conductor, which can either be really, really bad or really, really good and cause lethal. This is like between A and S. I don't think it's going to be one of the go-to. I really want to reserve S as like the go-to cards for a fun day. But this definitely deserves to be up in A. I mean, this is Mechasaur is definitely one of the most fun cards in the game. And of course, the almighty Bad Moon Rising. I mean, come on. This is probably the most fun card. What's more fun, Bad Moon Rising or Molekale? It's got to be Bad Moon Rising. I mean, Bad Moon Rising or Leaf? Ugh, it's so tough. But anyway, this has got to go up in S tier. Turning your guys into random Gargs. Not only is it so random, but Gargs are huge minions. So, the difference between getting a Smashing Garg and a Zombot is obviously the difference between losing that game and winning that game. It's so tense. It can hit 5 guys at a time, too, which is just, like, it's, imagine, like a Garg throwing Garg that throws 5 guys around the field. It's basically the equivalent. Anyway, absolutely going to be an S tier. I'm saving S tier for the real good ones. All right, next we're going to go to the Crazy class. Looks like we're making pretty good time on this tier list. Here's Mystery Egg. I find that it is a fun card. I'm going to give this a nice high tier. I find that the card that this turns into for some reason doesn't. There's so many 1 or 2 cost cards that are just like mediocre 2/1s, 2/2s, a 2/3. If you get like a Conehead Zombie, you usually are very happy because that's like a 2/2 with armor. It's like higher end. You get like a Fossil Head. Does it really matter if you get like a Scuba Diver or a Fossil Head? Not really. Every once in a while, it's turned something ridiculous. Every once in a while, this will get a Squirrel against a Bachanolith. We have had that moment. We've had moments where this will turn into like Cuckoo Zombie and does 4 damage to face for lethal. A Tennis Champ. There's a lot of things that can happen here. This also does ramp up to Bad Moon Rising really well with Brainstorm if you put in Nebula, because it like counts 2 minions. It also activates your Unlife of the Parties twice, which is, I guess, should give it more fun. I'm definitely not putting this in S. Does this deserve to be an A? I think in terms of its actual random effect, it probably would have been more B, but since it actually does a lot of other fun things too, it would have been like high B. It definitely is more fun than all the B cards here. I'll put this in A. I think it's similar to like Interdimensional Zombie. And every once in a while, something nuts will hatch out of that. It's usually pretty tense. All right, we're putting it up there. Here's Quasar. Quasar's tough because I don't know if I'm going to be putting this in A or S. I mean, this is really one of the most fun cards in the game. I think the things that have been conjuring superpowers I've been putting in A, so I'll be consistent and put this in A. But again, this is fun in any crazy deck. It's also competitive. I mean, it's really useful. It gives you the superpowers. It's definitely the better card than, let's say, Bird of Paradise and Thinking Cap. So for its usefulness, maybe I would have put it higher. I really want to, like, you're not going to build a deck around Quasar that much. I feel like the cards that we have there are like the prototypical. I'm happy with this being in high A tier. Could have been an S, maybe if my criteria were a little different. All right, here's Zombie's Best Friend, which creates a random zombie that costs 1. Again, is there a big, this instead of being like Egg that could be 1 cost or 2 costs, this is now only limiting it to 1 cost zombies. So the selection is lower, and again, which 1 cost zombie, like when it comes out, makes a huge difference. There's not a lot of them. Like Gladiator probably is the most like crazy thing that this spawns. Maybe a tennis champ every once in a while. I don't think this is a really fun card at all. It's not very useful. I don't like think of this in terms of random stuff. It's just because, again, there's the 1 cost cards don't have nutso effects because they cost 1. They can't. Cheese Cutter is cool. I'll put this in C. It has its moments. All right, next we got Exploding Fruitcake, which conjures your opponent a random fruit. Okay, this is more significant than its plant counterpart, which is Haunted Pumpkin. Haunted Pumpkin just gives your opponent this random bag of guys, and none of them are amazing. Exploding Fruitcake conjures your opponent a card. Like, Dragon Fruit is inside the fruit, like, the fruit tribe. There aren't a lot of fruit in the game, and the fact that one of them is dragon is just ridiculous. I don't know which of the other fruits that you get for your opponent. I mean, the difference between a Bananasaurus Rex and a half banana obviously is pretty significant. This is definitely more fun than Haunted Pumpkin, even though it's not really a super fun card. It's mostly just a really, really competitive card. I mean, it's one of the best cards in the game. I'm just justifying why I'm definitely putting it higher than Haunted Pumpkin. It's really just because Dragon Fruit's there, and when your opponent gets Dragon Fruit from this, it's like, come on, man. I don't think of putting this in a deck that you're really going for fun. I'll put this in C. All right. You're saying maybe it should be a lower tier because of Dragon Fruit. Because it's no fun to run in a deck because you freaking... Maybe the fact that it can make Dragon Fruit makes it less fun to run. I didn't even consider that. This is what the chat's going for. Chat's going for Chunk of Coal because stupid Dragon Fruit makes it so unfun. Fine. You know what? That's a good argument. I changed my mind. It's going in F tier. There's nothing fun about running this. Don't even matter. Astrocata, yeah. All right, it's a Chunk of Coal. Good idea, guys. I concur. Here's Abracadab. This is a very, very fun card. Really hard to pull. It's so unreliable because if your opponent sticks something in front of this, you're dead. We have done some decks that are based around Abracadabra where you're like running like a pirate deck and then you're just randomly running Abracadabra and you play it in lane 4 where your flame phase would be and then you get a lot of value. Every once in a while, something like your interdimensional zombie will leap into this, and then when this hits phase, it's so hard to hit phase 2 because there has to not be a minion there. And your opponent's block meter also has to behave, which around turns 3 and 4 is not very common. You can't teleport this in. Ugh. When it does, though, it's good. And which guy it hits, I mean, it's a random plant. It does make a big difference. This is a pretty fun card, but really hard to pull off. I'm going to put it in B, though, because it genuinely, it's so hard to happen, but when it happens, it's really good times. Here's Tankylosaurus. I haven't found, again, a lot of decks for this. We used to run this when Barrel of Barrels cost 1. That would make a guy deadly and draw you a random barrel. So this was much more useful because you can make this guy deadly really easily and start splashing all your opponent guys to death. Now Barrel of Barrels cost 2. Really, really hard to find a place. Some people have been telling me in the chat that this is still a useful card and I should try it more, which is true. I definitely should try to make some more decks based around Tankylosaurus. Maybe like a Conjure deck with, I guess it would have to be Infinity. I should definitely bring back Conjure Infinity, though. All right, where are we going to put you? Definitely not going to be an A. Let's say in B. The guy it hits matters. I guess it's similar to Punish Room. I think I'm going to actually be consistent and put it with Punish Room and Ragnaros Berry. It's about as useful as them and really has almost the exact same effect in terms of the fun value. All right, I'm putting in C. Next is we're getting the consistency, guys. All right, next is Cosmic Dancer. So Is this a really fun card? In terms of what it conjures, this can make a really, really big difference. Because if this is making like something like a On Life of the party late in the game, that's not going to be useful. By the way, sometimes On Life could be the best thing this gets because you have an On Life with Overstrike. But then this can make a Flamenco, this can make a Headhunter, things that are going to be super impactful on the game. Every once in a while, this just gives you like a B flat, which can be really bad or really good. I don't know. Is this high-end conjure or low-end conjure in terms of its fun value? It's not really a fun card. I don't think of this even being comparable to like Starch Lord or Pomegranate or Collapse, so I'm going to have to put this in C. Again, it has its moments, but nothing to write home about. All right, next we got the launchers. So we got Imp Throwing Garg, which throws a Imp to a random lane. This is like, I've never thought of like, oh, let's do a really fun deck. Let's put an Imp Throwing Garg in a deck. So this is going in Chunk of Coal. It's not fun at all. Now, on the other hand, Hippity Hop Garg at least makes a fun card on the field. That Mystery Egg, who knows what it's going to turn into. It's also just has better stats than that one. Hippity Hop Garg is a pretty fun card. Again, not really useful, but in terms of its fun value, I'll put it up in B because those eggs are nice and surprise. Here is Garg throwing Imp. I'm going to give this a high tier because this is actually the 5-cost Gargs. It makes a difference. I mean, the Supernova Garg, like, I guess the difference between the different 5-cost Gargs is not very big. Like, Supernova Garg is probably usually the best one. Surprise Garg sometimes gives you the option. I don't know. Smashing. What's the other 5-cost Garg that is like Mime Garg sometimes just like flips the game in half? I'll put this in A. This is actually genuinely a very, very fun card to play. It's definitely not up there with Garg throwing Garg. That can throw a lot more options, but I think this is a solid A in terms of fun. And Garg Feast. I mean, look, it's not a competitive card, but Garg Feast has got to give you an S tier. Come on. It's so good when this thing starts coming in, even just the effect, like the animation. This is like the most horrifying card in the game, even more than Baboon Rising. And then again, the difference between making, a surprise Garg, a smashing Garg, and a defensive end is so much different than when you start getting up to the Zombots. You're really just always looking for a Zombot and Garg throwing Garg from this. Really, really fun card. Not very practical, but you can't really put that anywhere less than S tier. It looks like I missed a crazy card here, so I'm going to be going back to Unexpected Gifts. This actually is a pretty fun card. I don't know why, because it conjures you so much, and it conjures one for your opponent. I do want to actually make more decks with Unexpected Gifts, especially with Dr. Spacetime. The event cards are on the zombie side are kind of cheap, and again, you're making a lot of them. So, yeah. It makes 3, too. It's not like freaking Plucky Clover that makes 1. I'm not going to put this in A, but I'll put it in definitely the high end of Conjures, which we're putting in B. Man, B has like 22 things in it already. Anyway, 20. We're going to have to make more room. How does our tier list look? All right, we're going to probably bump this down. All right, we're doing pretty good. We don't have that many left. Next is going to be the Hardy class. So we got Middle Manager as our first one. Is this a super fun card? I mean, it's more fun in terms of like activating Stompidon or your Dino Roars. That's like the fact that conjures anything so cheaply is the more fun. Which professional it conjures? It's usually making boring crap. What does this make? Like Chimney Sweep, Paparazzi, a Fossil Head, another Middle Manager, a Squirrel. Like, usually these cards are very unimpactful. I don't know if we've ever had any good. Have we had even one highlight that was based on Middle Manager? We had one. Remember when we got Excavator? Remember that one time? It was in one of the highlight comps. We got Excavator from Middle Manager, and the guy had a soul patch in a force field, and we had lethal because of that. Okay, so it has its moments. It's definitely on the lower end of Conjuring, though, so we'll put it in C. It's kind of conjures a bunch of boring cards, as Middle Manager should. Escape Through Time. Again, this is not Mechasaur that puts the history card onto the field. It conjures it into your hand. It's so expensive for what it does too. I mean, this used to cost 1. I would have given this a higher tier back when it was 1. I'm going to be putting this in C because, again, it can give you Undying Pharaoh in your hand, but then you got to play that for 6. I'll put it in C. Next, we're going with Cosmic Sports Star. This is not only one of the better, more useful Cosmic cards in this game, but it really, we've had some really good moments with Cosmic Sports Star. Like, if this gives you Pogo, It's amazing. If this gives you sumo, it's usually one of the best things because that's the one you can play immediately. Every once in a while, this will give you a backyard bounce. This will give you that rodeo guard you need. A sports guard. I mean, the fact it costs 2 less, it just makes whatever you're playing, you're automatically ramping to that card. So this will be on the upper end of Conjure, and we'll put it in B. Next. Oh man, I'm like totally, my screen isn't like big enough for this tier list. Holy moly. Okay, I can kind of like barely see them now. All right, looks like it's good. I had to zoom out just to fit this massive tier list. So cool how many RNG cards there are in PvZ Heroes. All right, it looks like it is. It looks like we're good now. We have like 20 cards left, something like that. Next, we're up to the Sneaky class. Sneaky has a lot. Pretty fun class too. Ooh, here we go. It's Buried Treasure. This is definitely one of the more fun cards in the game. Because, you know, it gives budget players love this because it gives them access to play all these legendaries that they wouldn't otherwise normally have. The fact it always gives you a legendary card, which are generally a little bit, you know, they're definitely the better cards in the game. And then it makes it cost 1 less. So the card you play is not only good, but it's extra playable. And then you start combining this with Dr. Spacetime and you're playing Garg throwing Garg for 5 and stuff like that. So this is definitely one of the most fun cards in the game. I can't quite put it in S, but this definitely deserves a spot in A tier. It's definitely like more fun than most of the conjures we have here because of the exact cards it conjures and sort of how it does it. It makes it cost less. Amazing. I'll put it in A. It's not like compared to Bad Moon Rising or Fig or Seedling or anything like that, but it's definitely like really, really top tier. Here we go. All right, next is Imposter. You know, Imposter, it's not a really fun card. Does it really make a difference what it gives you? Again, the 1-cost imps, like, it really, I guess the fun thing is when Imposter makes an Imposter and then makes another one, but this is actually on the lower end of the Conjure cards, so I'll be putting this in C. It's not really fun. Next is going to be the Chicken. The Chicken will move to a random lane whenever zombies play here. This almost makes no difference. I mean, it makes some, but it's not fun. This is a chunk of coal. I'm putting this in F. I've never like thought, oh, let's do a fun deck with chicken today. I don't know. I know you can start putting sugary treats on it, but it's not fun. All right, next is going to be Barrel of Barrels. Again, not a very useful card because it got nerfed to 2. It conjures a barrel. You know, sometimes it's cool. Sometimes you get a final mission, which I think is deadly then, which is nuts. Imposter can vent, though. You guys. The Among Us references are intensifying. Yeah, so that's what's with Barrel of Barrels. It doesn't, I don't know. Does it make a difference what it makes? It's just kind of on lower end. Next, Dr. Spacetime. Woo! Easy S tier. I mean, this is definitely one of the most fun cards in the game. Again, if you're looking to craft cards that are going to make your entire PvZ Heroes experience more fun, this is a super rare that you can totally build so many decks around. I mean, this is like, I would say this is one of the heart and soul cards of having like fun with RNG decks on the zombie side nowadays. Even the Conjure Leaps, it really, the fact it's making your Conjures cost less and then you leap them to 1 more, that's the whole concept of it. So this is easy S tier. Yeah, I do have an Among Us video on YouTube if you haven't seen that. Yuck, guys. Next we got Frosty Mustache. Freeze a plant, conjure a mustache. Mustaches are boring. We already established this when we did Duckstash. This isn't even good because Duckstash at least makes, I don't know. I'm putting this in C. I don't like Frosty Mustache. It doesn't do enough. Imp Throwing Imp is way more fun than Imposter because it opens up those 2-cost imps. The 2-cost imps, it makes a big difference. I mean, getting a fishy imp in the water instead of a swabby. Toxic Waste Imp. Of course, the most significant thing that this throws is another Imp Throwing Imp. But how often do you have like a spawn chain gang of 3 Imp Throwing Imps because they're all spawned from each other? This is a very fun card. I almost would put this in A. Maybe we should just put this in B though. I'm not gonna put it in A because I don't think it's like quite on the level of like Quasar and King and Thinking Cap. It really is not up in that level, but it's a really nice, solid, fun card. We'll put it in B. Rollite. Yeah, this is definitely an RNG tier list where we're basing the cards on their fun value. Fire Rooster. So this is way more fun than the chicken, because the chicken, when it moves to a lane, the regular chicken's like, who cares? But this, when it moves to a new lane, it actually starts pinging the things there. So this creates a lot of tension in the game. I'm not going to say this is one of the most fun cards in the game. It has its uses. You can also make this deadly, which is the most fun way to actually activate this. It's so hard to pull off. It's not a good competitive idea, but it does have that fun value. Make Fire Rooster deadly, and it's running around like a chicken with 3 heads and just killing everything. I guess we'll put it in B. All right. Are we off the edge? I guess we're going to have to shrink this one more time. One more time. All right, that should be the last time we need to shrink this freaking tier list now. That's looking good. All right, we got like 8 more cards left. Next is Cosmic Imp. Cosmic Imp, it doesn't really make a difference what it conjures, you know? It's not very good, because conjuring for 3 costs, we only conjure a Deadly Imp. It's like a bad barrel of barrels. You can teleport this in front of things. Does it really make a difference? Are there anything that's just imps? I guess the only thing that's really amazing for this to conjure is Stupid Cupid, because that makes it be able to shoot that deadly shot, so I can't put this all the way down. I'll put this in C. It just doesn't occur to me as being a very fun card. Next, we got Raiding Raptor, which is a very competitive card. I don't really think of this in terms of that fun. I mean, I guess it conjures a card that costs 2 or less. It's always growing. It works very well in conjure decks, because not only is it conjuring things, it also is growing whenever you conjure something. So I guess we're going to give it some points for that in terms of how well it works with other fun cards. Kind of brings up the overall quality of the deck. I'm definitely not putting in A. I think I'll stick this in B, though. It's one of the more fun conjure-y cards to play. Here is Space Pirate. It doesn't really, again, this doesn't make a big difference where it moves. At least it has more damage than Chicken. Chicken does 2 damage, so it doesn't matter if it moves to an empty lane. This one, it says anti-hero, so if it's going to an empty lane, it's just 3 times as good as if it's going to a filled lane. So I'll put it in C. Should we put it in D? It's not really a fun card. I'll put it in D. It's definitely better than Chicken, though. Here's Tomb Raiser. Tomb Raiser is a really, really fun card. It's hard to pull off, but, you know, because block meter. I wish this card had Bullseye. That's really what would fix it. But when we run Tomb Raiser in decks, we'll always have a good time. And it really is a competitive card, because on turn 4, they're always expecting Pogo. The surprise value of this, and let's say cards like Abracadabra, really give it a lot. I think this is more fun than Abracadabra. Abracadabra does 3 to a random zombie. This sometimes makes a conga, and then sometimes makes a freaking rodeo guard. So the impact it has sometimes makes a pogo you really need. The impact it has on the game when it activates, again, hard to pull off. I'm going to put this in A. I think this is actually, in terms of actual fun, not usefulness, but actual fun, it's actually right up there with all the A-cost cards are running. All right, here's Mixed Up Gravedigger, which, again, competitively is one of the most fun cards in the game. This card is kind of a bummer when it comes to fun, though. I mean, it's definitely not fun to play against, but, like, when you Bad Moon... This, like, ruins Bad Moon Rising. I think we're going to take off points from Mixed Up Gravedigger. Okay, but what about its actual effect that, you know, it sometimes does make a difference which card ends up where. Getting, like, one of your big cards in the amphibious lane... you know, where the matchups are. It creates a lot of tension. I'm not going to say this is one of the most fun cards in the game. It is in the Conjure Leap deck list. I'll just put this. I'll put this in C. It really does make a difference where things come up. I don't really associate this as being more of a fun card. It's much more of a strategic card. Oh, here's Gondel. Gondola, again, this is not conjuring cards into your hand. This is making guys onto the field, and this has the entire stack of zombies that it can create. It can create any zombie in the game, and it can create them in the water. In the water, it's always making amphibious minions. On the ground, it's making other things. If you, again, very hard card to pull off, not very competitive, but if you can pull off teleporting this in the left lane, this will make also like several minions per turn. This is almost like a mini Garg Feast in a card, as long as the block meter behaves. I can't quite put this in S because it's not up there in terms of like build the entire deck around this for fun, even though you can do that. It definitely is a really, really solid A tier though. This is certainly one of the more fun cards in the game. And another card, and this is going to be the last one that, again, don't necessarily associate this with its fun value. It's more of its competitive value. A finisher and that control infinity, you know, late game sneaky decks. Zombot Plankwalker has actually become a lot more fun over the years because it used to be there were only a few pirates and it didn't make that big of a difference. Now that you have cards like Garg Throwing Garg, which for some reason is a pirate, it like the and Gonzaluk, it also can come out. So the impact of the cards that it mates becomes greater, and also the actual set has become more fun. When you get a Gonzaluk, crazy things happen. When you get double Garg Throwing Garg, like happened in a highlight. That was really, really great. So, where are we going to put you? I don't know if this deserves to be an A tier. I mean, it has its moments where it's amazing, but usually it's not. Overall impact is actually more of a competitive card. I would say it's probably along the lines in terms of how many crazy moments it has as the other things in B. I'm definitely not putting it in S. That's for sure not happening. It definitely is not as fun as cards like Gonzala and Reincarnation. It really does not belong here at all. So I'll put it in B. Again, it does have that cool random effect. Amount of moments it has are limited, but it definitely has its pretty solid moments. All right, guys. So this is the RNG fun tier list, basing all the cards based only on how fun they are. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys. This was your idea. I mean, I got this idea from a lot of people in the Twitch and the YouTube comments. So if you guys have any creative ideas, particularly new criteria to rate the cards on, like how fun they are, rather than taking all the environments and putting them into a new tier list, they're going to end up exactly where they were in their original tier list of the classes. So let me know if you have any really creative criteria in terms of how to rate the cards in this game in the comments section below. Hope you guys enjoyed. I certainly did. Peace. This is Fry.